Areas of research are pelagic fisheries, sea cage farming of fin fishers and shellfishers, and geospatial technology and marine fisheries. So he completed his graduation from Kerala Agriculture University and master's in aquaculture from Central Institute of Fisheries Education and PhD from Mangalore University. And he has authored many publications in national and international journals. So he himself from Lakshadweep, he's the apt person to talk about the island ecosystem. So we welcome you, sir, to this session. Over to you, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to share my screen.
Okay.
Can you see my share screen?
Yes, sir, you may put it in full slide mode.
Oh, you are able to see? Okay.
Yes. But please put it in full slide mode.
Yeah. I'm trying to do that.
Okay.
Now it's fine?
Now it's fine, sir.
Good afternoon, dear friends. I'm Mohammed Koya. My name is Mohammed Koya. I'm a researcher for as the host just introduced me. In fact, I am in transit now. I had an unplanned travel today to Kochi. Now I am in the airport. I'm worried if you are, if my voice is in or video is interrupted in anyhow. Please forgive me. Okay. Actually, because I didn't want to miss today's session. So kind of, I hope it is not a noise. Not means you are able to listen to me, hear me. I hope because I had no other choice other than sit here and do the presentation today. Because tomorrow also I am engaged. I am not able to be make free myself. So I asked. See, today this session is on an island ecosystem-based marine fisheries. We have a case from Lakshadweep. Island ecosystems are very unique from mainland systems where typically these are small or ecosystems, but very complicated. Mostly, most of the island ecosystems are with the reefs associated, either fringing or atoll reefs. The coral reefs mainly coral reefs. So reefs are part of the island ecosystems. Generally, we have quite a lot of examples of islands in our country. We have the two island ecosystems, one in Andamans and the other one in Lakshadweep, the case of which we will try to see today. Andaman is geologically much different from Lakshadweep Islands. I think most of you are aware about. I think all of you will be aware that these two island systems have geomorphologically different. They are one is one is an atoll island, the other one is an volcanic island with fringing reef. It is topography, the ecology are all uh, almost different. I mean, in different in many ways than similarity in some ways. So today we will see the an atoll ecosystem, that is Lakshadweep. We will just have a, in this presentation we may be able to try to see the what is an atoll island, and then the kind of atolls around the world, then the ecology of the atoll ecosystems. Then we will have specific knowledge on, try to have share information on Lakshadweep atolls particular. Though in atoll, they have the fisheries of Lakshadweep atolls with its history and some part of its evolution of its fishery, and then mainly the management actions that what we are trying to uh, uh, put in place in a system like Lakshadweep. As CMFRA, as you are aware that CMFRA is one of the major mandate is ensuring the sustainability of the marine ecosystems, marine fisheries rather of the country. So management of marine fisheries is one of management guidelines or management advisories are one of the major responsibilities of CMFRA. The institute has to, the researchers work on developing management guidelines for various fisheries. So one of the fishery which we are trying to address for the last few years is that last 3-4 years is that Lakshadweep. So I am basically an islander by by birth and by education. I have been grown up in that island only. Now presently I am working there only. For last 1 year I am in the islands, trying to attend to some more details of the fisheries and some other aspects of ecology. So the Anatol, Anatol is uh, an atoll reef is we have two types of reefs. One is an atoll reef or a fringing reef. The atolls are normally a ring-shaped reef. A reef, what is a reef? In a group of coral colony, a huge group of coral colony, called reef-forming corals. When such a huge colony is living for many years, there's a kind of a hard structure, hard coralline structure formed, which is generally for an atoll it will be a ring-shaped reef. And in all cases, the atoll will have a lagoon. It will have a rim of reef, and then a lagoon. Lagoon is generally a calmer, place because there's a reef already, a shallow outgrowth of reef. I think you can see in this, how the reef in an atoll is formed. This is a preliminary information how and why it is different. Generally, it is said that any active volcanic island, when it is submerges, when it goes down, there is there's a subsidence of this kind of atolls, these mountains. Then there is a crater formed in that area, and that one, then there is a reef, kind of because of the shallow area. For corals, coral is actually a cylindrate organism. It has a swimming form and it has stationary form. It settled down to a kind of any hard structure. The lava form settle down to a hard structure and then start growing. And while it grows, it excretes rather the calcium. Then there is a calcium deposition happening as the coral grow. Corals are actually very fast growing organisms. As it is growing, there's a reef formed gradually. So the corals require a particular condition. Actually, corals don't grow everywhere. Coral grows between the 30-degree latitudes, south and north. Warmer water is very important. Temperature, warm, tropical conditions. Corals generally grow in tropical conditions. In some cases, cold water corals also, like in temperate regions also, we have coral systems. But typically, a coral require minimum 18 degrees Celsius temperature. So it doesn't grow in deeper areas. It doesn't grow in cooler areas. So you need shallow area with slightly warm water. So when these subsidence happen, there is always a the shallow area created, and then around that this reef, the corals start growing. because of these kind of a mountain tops, there is always a circular formation normally, or in cyclic structures, not typically a circle, but it may be in elliptical or many other shapes. Generally there will be a circular pattern for these reefs. So these reefs are, keep growing as the volcanic substance had happened many years before, but these reefs start growing, and then they start forming a shallow area, a calm area, shallow calm area in the middle of the ocean. Then what happened, there is always a continuous, because of the wave action, because of the withering of these corals, there is always sand accretion, sand formation, and sand is being deposited into one corner of the one area of the lagoon of the inside the lagoon. So this calmer water is actually called lagoons. The reef, then at the end, one end of this area, the sands get deposited. Then there is an island formed. So the island, there can be an island or without. Atoll can always have an island, but it can be without island also, because it's a gradual formation. Islands are formed very, very gradually, and after long several years of accretion of land, an island is formed. So that is an atoll. Generally, the atolls. An example of an atoll is Lakshadweep. Now we have fringing reef. What I was trying to tell in the mainland India, when this I was telling the coral, the kind of pretext needed for a corals to grow, clean light, means clean water. That means a good light penetration, good warmer temperature, and a hard substratum. If there is a hard substratum, there is a possibility of why in everywhere you don't find corals in our mainland coast, because these ideal conditions are not there. So in some patches in the mainland India, we have in southern area, in the southeast, we have the Rameshwaram, Mandapam area, in the Gulf of Mannar and Park Bay, where there are corals, patchy corals growing. These are fringing reefs. Then we have around, in southern tip in Kanyakumari towards the Vizhinjam and Trivandrum area, there is a patchy, fringing reef. And in then of the northwards to Ratnagiri, Goa, and around this, and then in near Gujarat, parts of Gujarat has patchy this one fringing reefs. So these are generally associated with the mainland, when because large shelf area is available, and if there has substratum is hard, and then these conditions prevail for, then if there's a coral settlement. So Andaman is generally a fringing reef for us, because it's already a volcanic island, a mountainous island, and then there is a shallow area around it, and then around the island there is always corals, and these are all patches of fringing reefs, what we call. So you can see the atolls. Typically, an atoll is circlic in the top of the mountain, and the fringing reefs are near the continental shelf, which wherever the shelf is available. So this is what is an atoll is. So why Lakshadweep is different from Andaman, and our island, other island territory, in these ways geologically. So the situation is also, both are oceanically situating in oceans only, but it has this one. Lakshadweep is typically in the Arabian Sea, and then where the ecology is different from the Bay of Bengal again. So that leads to differences or variation of kind of a differences in their fish habitat, means what you call the ecology, and thereby to the its fishery and other livelihood opportunities. There are quite a lot of atolls. Most of the world's atolls are in the Pacific Ocean. Examples are like Tuamotu Islands, Caroline Islands, Marshall Islands, Coral Sea Islands, and the Kiribati, Tuvalu, and Tokliu. All these are Pacific, South Pacific island nations. These are all big and of various sizes, Pacific nation islands. In Indian Ocean, we have these, atolls of Maldives. Actually, Lakshadweep is part of the Chagos, Maldives, Lakshadweep, Chagos archipelago. What you call what we call it, the Lakshadweep Chagos Ridge. So this is a mountainous ridge in the Arabian Sea on which these islands are located, starting from Lakshadweep to Chagos, in between the Maldives. So then we have Chagos archipelago. Yeah, Chagos is in the towards southern part of the further south of the Maldives. Then we have some more islands in the east, western Indian Ocean, uh, of the African coast, like Seychelles and some of the small islands there. In the Atlantic Ocean, we don't have quite a lot of atolls. Few like in the Nicaragua, atolls east coast of Nicaragua, then Colombian coast, and then you have the Caribbean parts in areas where there's a few atoll islands. So this is what in an atoll. Actually, Lakshadweep is is an added territorial advantage for the country with having a diverse ecological habitat, ecological precinct, that is an atoll reef, which adds to the biodiversity of our country. Further, to add to it adds to the maritime zones of our country. That is how the Lakshadweep is significant for India's ecology and economy. A coral islands, these have a lot of services provided in an atoll ecosystem. There are a lot of services like corals, hard and soft, and then reforming and non-reforming, the kind of hermetic and hermetic reefs. Corals are a source of energy for many and source of food for many organisms, structure for you know uh, 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 you know lot of places for the living kind of the organisms, invertebrates. And then major part of the atoll reef is corals. Huge, there are a lot of diversities in corals. We have quite a lot of hard and soft corals also there. So corals have a huge role to play because it's a major sink of energy, major sink of carbon, major sink of nutrients. Then macroalgae, the seaweeds, what we call the macroalgae. A lot of macroalgae grow in these ecologic habit lagoons. Then seagrass, another major uh, uh, ecological player in the lagoon ecosystem. Then there are a lot of invertebrates, invertebrates like sponges, worms, starfishes, urchins, cucumbers, and then so and so forth. So many invertebrate organisms. And then the major one is the fishes again. A lot of diverse fishes. There are huge diversity of fishes in coral ecosystems in Lakshadweep. Instead of in India, lagoons of Lakshadweep has around 603 species of fishes. That's kind of diversity the coral reef ecosystems provide in terms of fish diversity. There are herbivores and carnivore fishes, and every player in the ecosystem, lagoon ecosystem, like in any other ecosystem, has ecological role to play, service to provide. So that's how the the balance of the ecology is very important. We need to maintain all these in right proportions. Else the now in Lakshadweep we have quite a very unique problem in the last few 10 to 15, 10 to 12 years. We have a huge loss of our aquatic macrophytes like plants and then the seaweeds. Why how it happened is like there was an emergence of sea turtles in our region. Conservation of sea turtles in global parlance, like in globally, there has been a huge conservation initiative for turtles, especially green turtles. What happened? The turtle population increased a lot in our, unusually high emergence of turtles in our, Lakshadweep lagoons. What happened actually? See, they have eaten up all the sea grasses and seaweeds. Now there is an imbalance in the ecology. There is almost no plant, major plants like macrophytes, seaweed or seagrass in the ecology. There is a nutrient imbalance in the ecology. There is associated other problems. So there is a kind of imbalance happened in the recent years, mainly because of our over concern with conservation of turtles, because turtles are enjoying a huge, generally in our islands, turtles are not hunted or not fished for any reason. Uh, in the olden days, it was used for many purposes, but these days it is not used. Like turtle was used, turtle eggs were used in very early, like the last 20-25 years. Once we have a good source of fishes regularly coming, huge diversity of fishes in quantity, tunas are plenty, so the meat requirements are not met from turtles. Eggs are also not used for any reason. Then the turtle liver was used for making oil, which was used for treating in country boat preparations, which is also not happening nowadays because all country boats are made of a synthetic material these days. So no wood is used. Mostly wood is used. No coir is used for receiving the. So that way, turtle had enjoyed its. Recently there in the last 10, 20 years there had not been any threat to a turtle, and then many other parts of conservation activities have been going on. What happened is turtle had emerged in mass in this area, and that has caused havoc in the lagoon. So, which is actually, this is a recent example of an imbalance causing in the ecology, which is actually due to natural concerns, natural causes mainly, because it's not any human intervention, except for over conservation of turtles. No, these are these kind of services what the lagoon ecosystem provides. What I was trying to show in this with turtles are actually, you can see them 4 5 turtle in one fishing net. These are shore scene fishing, shore scene netting. What we do, where turtle they just remove the turtle and leave it, let it go, and then take the fish and go. This so it provides a livelihood. It provides protein for the population. Then it provides livelihood in many other ways, like the coconut leaves, how it is used for retting, just for softening it, and that is used for placing and then making the uh, uh, you know thatching the roofs. Historically, we have been using sea for this purpose. Coconut leaves are retted for a day just to soften it, so that they can place it easily and make the uh, 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 kind of coconut leaf placed used for roofing and fencing. And then people enjoy, because this is there's a kind of a social use of this lagoon and reef systems are all the places where people spend time. People spend for amusement, watching fishes and then playing in around. Children play around there. So these are the ecological services of the lagoon and the lagoon ecology. And then we have diversity of birds and many other life. You can see this is seagrass areas, seagrass areas. Now it's not a common sight nowadays. Now these are used for coconut retting, coconut husk retting, which was used for making coir those days. Now it is coir is not much used, not retted in the lagoon these days. So tourism is another major beneficiary of the lagoon ecology. And then that's how the in atoll reef, how the ecology is giving services to its other, every different, every link of its. The trade-off is that we need to harvest for livelihood and protein, but we need to conserve it for existence. So this is the basic funda what we understand. The local people generally understand this because they have been living with these systems, and then their livelihoods are very much in tandem with the ecology of the system, because there are no harmful livelihood system or any other amusement system for people which you know hinders the lagoon ecology. Then we have the fisheries is major. Actually, fisheries is the major kind of a non-extractive use in the lagoon ecology, because the fishes are harvested. People do it for livelihood. People do it for protein food. So there is no way we have to harvest fish. But then when we harvest the fish, we have to harvest it in a very responsible way, so that we don't harvest it in at once for everything, and then we harvest in a sustainable way. So then we need to, there are management plans, management activities which mitigate such adverse effects if at all happens. So that is a trade-off with fisheries. Coral reefs, these are actually highly complex, hence, and it's very challenging. Every target species I was telling that has an ecosystem and a role in the ecosystem. So coral reefs are very important. Then we need to live in tandem with coral reefs, because it's for livelihood. For fishes we need coral reef. For tourism we need coral reef. For amusement and for existence for the island itself, because even the basic island is sand is formed from the coral, you know, mainly from coral, sands. So coral, when it is withered, or there are some kind of fishes that are selling parrot fishes. Parrot fish is a big ecological service provider, because they not only clear the herbivores, they actually clear the places for fresh corals to achieve. The coral larvae need very hard substratum, and hard and the algae-free substratum. So the parrotfishes keep nibbling these harder rocky areas, coral, rocky areas, and keep cleaning, so that there is always, the new coral larvae keep attaching. And then you have the parrotfishes also take in a lot of sandy. You would have seen you can see in videos in YouTube also, that how the the coral stones are ingested by the parrotfishes, and they grind it and then they release back the sand, which also contribute to island formation. So these are important, indicator fishes, what you call having huge role. So we need to, and the parrotfish is one of the tastiest fish in this lagoon. People relish it very highly. And then you have to have a trade-off here, no? Like we cannot harvest it to a certain extent and beyond. We need information for the management of these resources. So we have to say, for sustainable harvest, we need critical knowledge. Scientists have to find out, and through research. So these are the kind of trade-offs what we have to make in an island ecosystem. Now coming to Lakshadweep, typically there are 13 atolls. Lakshadweep has 13 atolls, around 32 islands. In an atoll there can be more than the kind of sand banks, which are not typically atolls. We don't have a lagoon, but these are submerged banks. Sometimes they have reef. There are reef areas. There is actually a ring-shaped reef, but there is no island, which because it indicates that there may be an island in due course. There may be island formed in such reef areas. There are such three reefs in the Lakshadweep. We have it's called Valyapani or Chariyapani, that means in the northern part, and there is an Perumal part. These are three reefs. These three reefs are very important fishing ground for the local fishermen. They camp in these reef areas for 3 to 5 days and fish and come back to their major island. So it's a small island, land mass that's around 132 kilometer coastline only. But the lagoon is actually, the land area is 32 square kilometer also again. But it has a very big lagoon, very vast lagoon, 4,200 square kilometer lagoon area. And it has its territorial waters, 12 nautical miles from the reef is around 20,000 square kilometer. It has an economic, it contributes to India's economic area, exclusive economic zone by 4 lakh square kilometer. That means around 20% of India's EEZ is contributed by these few small islands. So there are around 11 islands which is inhabited. That's around population. Total we have around 75,000 people living in the islands, with the varying population densities in different islands. This is the profile of the islands. There are I was telling the 11 inhabited islands. So these are a small islands with an average 3 to 2.5 square kilometer area. There are some larger, some smaller, very smaller. But lagoons, they also have different sizes of lagoons. This is typically an island geomorphology of two island types. We say one is with a small lagoon area. This in this left side of this, what we call it, this is Amini Island. This is a major island. It has a huge land mass, but its lagoon area is very small. So this is the reef. What we were telling, the reef around the uh, island, and you have the reef crest. Reef structures are like reef area, shallow shelf, outer reef area, then the reef crest, then inner reef areas, and then You have places where seagrass and seaweed used to grow, and then the what you call reef flat. So typically, an island will have a reef ring reef, and then there's a reef flat in interior, and then the landmass. This another island, you can see it's a long elongated island. Then it has a larger lagoon, huge lagoon area. There are very deeper waters. No, the depth of the lagoon here in this island will be varying around on an average around 4 meter. It's 4 to 5 meter. There are places where 6 to 7 meter depth is also available. So this is how a lagoon is. The lagoon is the major, nursery of the fishes, and there are larger fishes also visiting this island for feeding. But lagoon always form the major nursery for the uh, uh, fishes, commercial and ornamental fishes. And ornamental fishes also live in this lagoon itself. They are generally inside the lagoon, though there are reefs outside, outer reef also, the fishes live. Coral reef fishes also live in those areas. So the lagoon profile is like that because the depth profile, the habitat, the other geomorphology affect the species diversity and species density, fish density. So it depends on, now this is a larger lagoon, a lot of fishing activity in this lagoon. In the smaller lagoon, there are no much fishing activity, no much fish diversity. Fish diversity is relatively lesser. So this is how two typical atolls I will show. This kind of around 32 islands are there. So this is an atoll with an island, and there is a small island towards the north. This is an airport island. This is an airport in the southern part of this island. So this is another island. There are two islands in this atoll. Like this island, there's only one atoll. So this is how a typical geomorphology in atoll is. It has huge diversity. I was telling the biodiversity is quite huge because of the coral reef ecosystem. Corals and fishes, crustaceans, mollusks, sponges, mangroves, seaweeds, echinoderms, seagrass, sea turtles, and then even birds and cetaceans. So many actually fishes, fishes around 601 species. Many of them are commercially important. Some of them are ornamental value. Some have huge ecological, significance. Some are what you call uh, ecologically very significant. We have a term for it. I am not able to get that word. So this is one of the island, one of the sandbanks. This Pitti, it's called Pitti, Pitti, bird sanctuary. It's a bird sanctuary. There's only huge, around 4 species of terns nest around this in this island. So a small 1 hectare area of land amidst the sea, amidst the lagoon. It doesn't have a lagoon by itself. It's actually a platform reef on which the sand has accumulated, and then it is a big service provider for the birds to breed and flourish, because birds are very important for Lakshadweeps. I will come to that fishing practices, then they know that how birds are important for Lakshadweep's fisheries. Birds are huge indicators of fish abundance for fishermen from far, from several kilometers far. You can know if there is a fish, if there's a tuna shoal, because birds will be feeding on the baits which actually tuna also feeds on. So it's an indicator from far, and that helps fishermen to steer fast to fishing grounds and then do fishing. So this is important helper, very important partner in the fisheries of Lakshadweep. Birds are. This is typical to pollen line fishing, which I'll explain. So fishes, I was trying to tell you that the diversity of fishes. This diversity of fishes are not there in our mainland fishes because of the this coral, because of the structured reef of corals. So there are these are the families of fishes available in the reef associated, no, reef near the reef and reef associated fishes. That means around up to around 90 to 100 meter depth zone, where coral kind of reefs are, the impact of reef is felt. Such rocky areas are remaining. So that is such places. These fishes like the labrids, the wrasses, the surgeons, the butterfly fishes, the trigger fishes, the snappers and groupers and the sea breams. Many of these fishes are reef associated, while the open sea fishes like this comrade, that where the tunas and tuna-like fishes are there. Then flying fishes, coryphena, the dolphin fishes, the marlins and sailfishes, sharks and rays. These are open sea fishes. They live in oceanic areas rather. So fisheries is built on the traditional fishing and trade practices prevalent ever since. Now we're coming to the fisheries of this island. I think I should go faster, otherwise I won't be able to finish the fisheries is built on and the traditional fishing and trade practices prevalent ever since settlement in the islands. There are, it ranges from hand picking to pollen line fishing. There are that kind of diversity of fishing methods. Then there are huge diversity in fishing crafts also. There are small plank built crafts to a larger plank built and FRP fish, FRP is the fiber reinforced plastic boats. These are mostly open deck. These are very different from mainland fishing boats. These are open like pollen line boats, motorized using inboard engines. And then these are the major fishing crafts. Open deck paddler boats are the major fishing crafts in the islands, which used for this pollen line fishing. Modified version now there's a larger and with wheelhouse, which with the fish hold facilities, insulated fish hold facilities. There's a new generation fishing crafts coming up. These are called Maldivian type fishing. It was more in Maldives, though we are adopting Maldivian type fishing crafts in our fisheries. These are the traditional fishing practices. You can see that these are the crafts. You can see traditional fishing crafts, and then traps used. These are hunting gears, the octopus hunting. These are the fish hunting. There are a lot of mostly these are wounding gears, wounding and net gears mostly, or trapping gears. These were the traditional fishing practice. Now these are all gone almost, because as we evolved from, these are the picture of 60s and 70s, and since mechanization happened, then since mechanization of fishing crafts happened in the late 60s and early 70s, Lakshadweep also joined that fray of mechanization and then motorization and mechanization. And then we are into larger fishing. Now there are fishing crafts called pollen line fishing, troll line. Major gear is pollen line fishing. Then troll line fishing, gill netting, hand line fishing, shore sealing, and long line fishing. And some other primitive fishing techniques still involved. So these are fishery of Lakshadweep. When you see overall fisheries, fisheries have been Lakshadweep's major fishery is tuna. You please note that Lakshadweep's 75% of the tuna landing is tuna. Tuna is mainly yellowfin tuna, mainly skipjack tuna, and then yellowfin tuna. So the landing is to the tune around 20,000 tons. In average 20,000 tons a year is landed in these years, last 2 3 years. So there has been a change. It has been historically fishing for tuna, and with the mechanization, the fishing for tuna was more vigorous. Then it has been continuously fishing in that pattern for last many years. But in the recent years, in 2015, 16, 17, there are few milestone events happened in these areas, which has helped the fisheries to go high. Suddenly, there's a boom in fisheries, especially in tuna landing. Then these are mainly because of introduction of larger fishing crabs and fish aggregation devices. They use fish aggregation devices for fishing. These are part of tuna fishing strategy. Then you have the handling as yellowfin fishing taking up in a large way. These are the the milestones that pushed up the tuna, the fish landing in the recent years. So I can see that pollen line is a major fishing gear. Pollen line mainly target the skipjack tuna, and then hand line, which is used for offshore hand lining, used for yellowfin mainly, and then other gears like gill nets, hand lining, inshore hand lining, and many other gears constitute the remaining. So around nearly 90% is from these two gears, hand line and pollen line fishing. The tuna species, you can see the skipjack is a major fish, around 67 percentage is skipjack. followed by yellowfin tuna. That's 25%. These are recently the yellowfin contribution has been increasing, and then many other tunas, including big-eyed tuna in smaller quantities. So the potential of Lakshadweep's fisheries is around zero point 0.5 lakh tons. Mainly, means tuna food potential of Lakshadweep is around 0.5 lakh tons. It has an almost equal quantity of other resources, but generally the fishery is depend on tuna. The average production is around 20,000 tons sterling in the recent years. So it's there is a yellowfin. You can see that in the recent years the yellowfin tuna, yellowfin skipjack. You can see that the yellowfin has been emerging as a major fishery in the last 4 5 years. That's mainly because of the market strategies recently introduced. Because yellowfin don't have a market per se. Our skipjack is mainly having market because skipjack has a product called masmin. Actually, you may be aware about Lakshadweep's masmin, that is sun-dried tuna loins, smoked and sun-dried tuna loins. So that is having a traditional marketing in Sri Lanka and parts of Indian mainland. But in the recent years, what happened? The government promoted the introduction of collector vessels from mainland. So boats from collection vessels from mainland came and collected fishes in fresh condition, in chilled condition rather, in ice. So that boosted the yellowfin harvest, because yellowfin was never used for harvested because of the market constraints. Now there is a push towards yellowfin fishing in this. Whenever there is a collection vessel available, they target the yellowfin tuna, which because it's better priced. It is low economic to harvest, more economic because it's used, hand line is used for fishing in that here, unlike pollen line. Now skipjack tuna, when you see this is one of the major, I was selling around 70% is skipjack tuna, and that is caught mainly by or almost by exclusively by pollen line fishing. And yellowfin is, I was trying to tell that yellowfin is a handline, mainly the handline fishery, and the recent boon yellowfin fishery. You can see these are large size fishes. Yellowfins are generally large size. We get relatively larger size fishes in the winter months mainly. So features of Lakshadweep species are its most targeted fishing. It is because of its hook and line fishing, be Skipjack, pollen line, which are mostly it's targeted. It doesn't have these bycatch issues, and it is doesn't interact with ETP. In endangered, threatened, and protected species like turtles and cetaceans. So then there is a fishery. Fishery in island system, it occupies a cult status. It has a fishery, unlike in many other places in our country. Fishery in Lakshadweep is, fishing and allied activities are not regarded a bad joke. It is part of our, living way of living for every islander in Lakshadweep. Everyone in the island know fishing. Everyone do fishing at some or the other point of time. So it occupies a cult status in our society. Then infrastructure and marketing are bottlenecks. Actually, why the fisheries of Lakshadweep is still, they harvest not even 50% of their potential of tuna because of the marketing bottlenecks. It is because of this locational, around 400 kilometers from mainland, and then the market is in the mainland, and you have incidentals for marketing, which is and then infrastructure is very weak here because we don't have cold chain infrastructures, not sufficient ice plants are available, not sufficient cold storage facilities available. So these are bottlenecks in this typical Lakshadweep fisheries. And then we depend on the traditional modes of processing for marketing, that is mass mean making mainly. The fishermen are closely in its fishing society, socially very closely in it in our society. Yellowfin tuna, a high value resource not exploited so far, value chain issues again. But it has started emerging as a major fishery because of the value chain redressal by introduction of collector vessels from mainland. So it goes for freezing in the mainland or in domestic marketing in local, in the Indian mainland. Long lining has high potential, but it is not commonly practiced because long line will give you a larger size yellowfin, which is used for high end marketing like for sashimi production. which is now not because our fishes are yellowfin, though it's a good resource, but we harvest around average size maybe around 15 to 20 kg, which is actually an inferior quality yellowfin. Actually, the yellowfin should be around 20 kg up or 30 kg up for high-end marketing. Then reef fish is a good alternative, but reef fish fishing is not promoted in large way because of the fishing techniques may interact with coral reef ecosystems, and the reef fishes are not as good as tunas. So it is promoted on a very high value marketing or tourism resorts only. Uh, then lagoons, of course, I was telling the lagoons are the major area nursery for the all commercially important fishery resources. So though it is exploited intensively in because of its amenity to people and in availability of juvenile fishes, easy harvesting techniques, but it's a concern because people are started because of recreational activities. People start fishing more in the lagoons. And tuna, the oceanic tunas I was telling, the skipjack, yellowfin, and the skipjack, yellowfin, little tiny bullet tuna, dogtooth tuna. These are the major tunas. Aquatic species: rainbow runner, mahi mahi, wahoo, sharks, rays, reef associated fishes, snappers. These are the major commercial fishes of Lakshadweep. The Lakshadweep is already in the deep oceanic area, so the deep fishing grounds are very close by, and then the grounds are very nearby. And there are reef areas which is little far from there, where fishermen go for 2 3 days and 3 to 5 days and camp and fish and come back with the mass mean, or or now or these days they use ice and go and camp and fish and come back. So this is a hook and line based fishing. Lakshadweep is totally hook and line based fishing. So gillnet is very rare, and for especially it's used for reef associated fish fishing only. These are the composition of fish in Lakshadweep. I have already explained these things. So Lakshadweep is synonym for tuna fisheries. It's always a destination for tuna fisheries. Now, pollen line is tagline of Lakshadweep fishing. Pollen line. I think I have not told you what is pollen line fishing in this presentation. I expected that you will know. Pollen line is actually use of bamboo poles of around 2 meter long. It's a kind of a string with a barbless hook attached to it. And these are typically used for shoaling and highly feeding frenzy fishes like skipjack tuna and yellowfin tuna. So this is they invariably need a live bait. Live bait is used for fishing, attracting these tunas. So that is the major fishing method for Lakshadweep, and that is actually a one-by-one fishing method, which is traditionally rooted to our Lakshadweep fisheries, Lakshadweep, and then it's one-by-one fishing. In sense, one fish by one fisherman at one time. That means you don't fish too much. You cannot fish too much because you have to labor hard for fishing. Though the fishing is often sustainable, it's sustainable because it's numbered. You cannot harvest more than what is. Only thing is that you need live bait. That's the substitute fishing for uh, live skipjack or line fishing. And fishermen, when they set for after taking live bait from the lagoon, live baits are generally spratloids, sprats they call it, like anchovy like fishes. These are clupids. Sprats are collected from the lagoon by seed netting, and then hold it on their fishing tank, and that is being taken to ground. And then they look for birds. I was telling the sight of birds is indicator of tuna shoals. Or these days there are fish aggregation devices deployed. Fish aggregation devices are deployed where tunas are generally aggregated on. So they go their area and then do the fishing. These are the globally pollen line fishing or one by one fishing, countries or locations. Lakshadweep, proud for India is that India is also having a destination where this kind of pollen line sustainable fishing like pollen line is practiced. It is mainly in the Pacific in island territories and part of the east coast of Africa and the Atlantics. And then major polar line fishing nations are the Indonesia and Japan, then followed by Maldives and Lakshadweep. The it just doesn't interact with endangered species like turtles, seabirds, and then the mammals. It doesn't affect the habitat. It is not a destructive fishing gear at all. It is very benign fishing gear for the habitat. It's low intensity because there's a limit for harvesting, and then it involves more people, more labor, more employment, and then livelihood to more families. Culturally important. This is part of the local culture, and then it's owned by locals, the local ownership. And because it's a smaller crops, smaller investment is not so high, so people are able to afford, and locally it is it's owned by local people. Then tuna fishing boat, typically tuna fishing boat, you can see it is Pablo boat, we call it. You can see a live bait tank on the stern, and in platform you can see people stand on this platform and do the polar line fishing. You can see the poles arranged. So people, they are now trying to catch live bait. This is the live bait collection system technique. Live baits are being collected. Then you have the actual fishing, and the fishes are dressed in the seashore when it is landed by evening. These are mostly daily fishing. Evening they land it and then dress it for production of mass meal. This is look of mass meal. Okay, this is one of the organized tuna fisheries in India. Then the only organized tuna fishery is in Lakshadweep. The bait collection, I will not go into details of that bait collection. This is how bait is stored in the tank. This bait collection system, and this now they are steering into the fishing ground. These larger fishing boats, you can see this was smaller one. This is the larger one boats now. They harvested tuna harvested. This is the interim medium-sized boat. These are the processing and value addition happening. We have a canning factory one which is not very functional, and there are small-scale producers of value-added products in Lakshadweep, and products from tuna and mass meat both. It is sold locally. Mostly it is. These are fishery for other resources. I was telling the other resources are full beak and half beak. The wahoo, the mahi-mahi, groupers and snappers and shark. These are the other major fisheries. Sharks actually these days are lesser because sharks meat is not released much now. The trade is also limited. It was 100 earlier for the fins. Now because the restrictions, shark fishing is targeted. Shark fishing is not there in any of the gear. Shark landing is only happens in gill nets when it is occasionally used. This is the fishing craft. You can see the plank built fishing craft, traditional fishing craft, which is used for flying fish fishing and reef fish fishing, mainly hook and line and drop lines. So these are other fishing techniques. You can see intertidal reef areas where people fish other fishes like juvenile caranges, cast net is used generally. A kind of trapping gears are used. When women do fishing, this lady is fishing for octopus actually. Octopus is a delicacy in our islands, and that is fished mainly by the women from the intertidal areas. This is a harvest of reef fishes like in a shore scene catch. No, the coral reefs, I was trying to tell that the coral reefs are important. Island formation, its shore protection is for shore protection, corals are important. Nursery ground for fishes and other home for plethora, flora and fauna of our islands ecology. Lagoons of Lakshadweep have it, around, I mean, this is actually commercial fishes, around 75 commercial marine ornamental fishes belonging to 13 families. So source of live baits fishes for people, fishermen, base for the live bait, for the development of tourism. So in at all, the lagoon plays a crucial role for the area. Now the need for management. Though I was trying to tell Lakshadweep's fisheries is generally very clean, in the sense there are not very harmful fishing practices at all in our system. Mainly, it needs sustainable boosting up for production. But live bait is a concern sometimes because live bait is harvested from the lagoons. So there are needs for management. There is always a urge for management of the open resources. The open resources are to be managed common property because it is to be managed by the state and people's participation. So there is a need for management plans. Now, so this is actually management plan. So we are preparing fisheries management plans for tuna and reef fishes. We already prepared a live bait fisheries management plan, and it is published. Now, the CMFRI will also help in making coral reef management plans. So these are the management plans. Why now live bait fisheries management plan? I'm trying to what we did in live bait fisheries. Live bait is because it is collected from the lagoon, and it affects the harvest rate is higher, and it has to be balanced. It has to be sustainably caught because the live baits are also used for food for other fishes, and it has other ecological services in the lagoon. So its harvest is to be managed, made sustainably. So there is a need for live bait fisheries management plan. So we made a live bait fisheries management plan after a lot of discussions and consultations with objectives like protection. Mainly, it is protection of live bait resources, raising the awareness of bait fish management, reduction of bait fish wastage, reduction of negative impacts on the ecosystem and physical environment. This is structure of the live bait fisherman plan what we made, and it has been very well accepted. Now coming to why the live bait fisherman plan was needed was we were trying to because its cleanliness with respect to impacts on impacts of fishing on the ecology. It was all set for green labeling. Green labeling because it's sustainably caught tuna, and tuna is a global product, a kind of a very fast-growing market for tuna, especially in the European and American markets, which always they always look for sustainably caught tunas. So Lakshadweep tuna was fully qualified for a full assessment by Marine Stewardship Council or any other assessment systems, whatever local, Indian or in foreign assessment schools can do. We would really win easily the assessment. Unfortunately, the assessments have not happened by any of these agencies because of this assessments help us earn a premium because of the market premiums, but the assessment also help us to know our showcase our good practices, good management practices to the world. So it is always almost set to for a green labeling, eco labeling, the tuna fish actually. This is what I will conclude is that the Lakshadweep's major fishery is tuna. Tuna, one of the tuna is a vast, important marine resource, and it has a lot of potential for expansion and sustainable expansion of tuna resources in Lakshadweep. It's in a subsistence scale fishing almost, so it's a more sustainable fisheries. Tuna fisheries in the islands has very low impact on the ecosystem. Shark or any other sensitive catches are much less. Bait fishes has an interaction which is addressed by bait fisherman plan and by awareness generation. So it's an eco-friendly fishing methods. So we promote that this kind of fishing practices by these kind of fishing practices available globally has to be protected and promoted and showcased, and it should be considered whenever there are larger, because tuna is a highly migratory species. It's not the country managed. Tunas are managed by international bodies like collectives of nations, because these are highly migratory resources. They don't have any maritime boundary restrictions, so it cannot be managed by countries. It has to be managed by a group of countries together, collectives of countries. So but when we manage, there are cases where tunas in some, suppose some species like yellowfin is overfished in many other parts, generally in the Indian Ocean. But it is an emerging fishery was Lakshadweep, and the fishery is exclusively handline fishing, and so such fisheries should be protected and promoted, and should be. We say that the global management regime should consider such smaller and emerging sustainable fishing practices. Whenever there is binding laws are made by these kind of international management agencies. So why I put it conclude it this way, that Lakshadweep has a huge expectation from tuna fisheries, but tuna fisheries is having a lot of setbacks generally, especially for yellowfin tuna. Now the global management paradigms should consider these emerging fisheries and treat them especially for management actions. So that because these are smaller economies which need tunas, which cannot subsist without tuna resources, and then management should consider these kind of economies, tuna-based small economies. I think I conclude with this presentation, this one. Thank you. I think I took more time. I don't know. Yeah, this is the end of my presentation. I
Thank
think
you.
you can. It has not been. I don't know if it was very clear to you all throughout, because there was some noise in. I was telling you, I was sitting in the airport while doing this presentation. I can't help people cleaning around and then dragging their trolleys and all those things.
First, thank you from bottom of my heart that in spite of all the difficulties, you are presenting a very good presentations. The flow presentations, the way you deliver, the simple language, you covers everything from the atoll to the tourism, the fisheries, the livelihood. I think as a layman, anyone can see this presentation, will learn that how the island fisheries is going on. No doubt in the Lakshadweep, in any other areas as well. That is the beauty of these presentations. From this side, is a very good, very nicely prepared, and the present by you, sir. And in the chat box also, the numbers of students are highlighted that it's a very good presentations, and that's why we are really thankful to you. And even though you are go very in detail, so there is also no question from this side as well. Thank you, sir. And again in future also, if we are doing any island related fisheries work, definitely we will connect with you, sir. Over to Anuja.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, your presentation was very good, sir. And through the slides, we could understand how unique the island ecosystem is, and how important fisheries for the livelihood for the island dwellers, sir. And you also spoke in detail about the traditional fishing method and how it can guide the global fishing to a sustainable future, sir. So we all are thankful to you for taking pain in doing this presentation, even with your personal difficulties, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and spending time with us, sir, and sharing your knowledge. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.